Good morning to all our yellow group and grade R boys and girls. Are you ready for our next Letterland lesson? Well, who can remember what is the first thing we do before we begin our lesson? That's right, we warm up our voices by singing our Letterland song.
Letterland, Letterland, there could be no better land for meeting a duck, a man with a hat, an orange or two, and a clever old cat. So let's go to Letterland, Letterland, Letterland. Walter Walrus Wetterland needs slithering Sam, a king who can kick, a quarrelsome queen, or meet noisy Nick. So let's go to Letterland. Let's go to Letterland today.
Do you know how Noisy Nick got his name? Well, let me tell you, he has a very noisy hobby. He likes making things with wood, so he's always banging nails and making a nasty noise. Nasty noise. Now, I also know that Noisy Nick turned 9. He turned 9, and that his parents bought him a drum set for his birthday. And Noisy Nick loves playing on that drum set and making so much noise. But oh no, what are the neighbors going to say now that he is making more noise than ever before? I also know that Noisy Nick can be a really nice boy, but that he does have a very nasty habit of saying the word no when he is supposed to say the word yes. Like when his mom says to him, "Nick, it is time for bed." And he shouts at her and he says, "No, not yet," instead of saying yes. Sometimes he shouts so loud that all of the neighbors can hear him. What a nasty habit he has. Now let's take a closer look at this noisy boy called Noisy Nick. In his picture, can you see his head? I can see his head and his face. I can see his letter and his nail. Now, Noisy Nick says his sound in his name. So if I say his name for you, you will be able to hear his sound starting his name. Let's listen carefully to his name and see if you can figure out the sound he makes. Noisy Nick. Noisy Nick. Did you hear a N sound? I heard a N sound. Let's see if we can practice his sound together. N, N, N. Next, we are going to sing Noisy Nick's song that helps us practice the sound he makes.
Noisy Nick says in words, in words, in words. Noisy Nick says in words, you can hear it now. Noisy Nick says in words, in words, in words. Noisy Nick says in words, you can hear it now.
Very nice, boys and girls. Next, we are going to take another closer look at Noisy Nick's lowercase N letter and how we are going to write it. So let's look carefully at his picture. Can you see the nail? Right, when we start writing Noisy Nick's lowercase letter, we're going to start at the top and we are going to bang down his nail, go back up the same line, over and around his head. Let's try that again. We're going to bang down his nail, go back up the same line and over and around Nick's head. Well done. Now remember, in some of our past lessons I explained to you that when a Letterlander, some Letterlanders, want to start an important word, they take a deep breath in and get really, really big, and they turn into their capital letter, and they can start important words at the beginning of a sentence, or they can start a name. Now, Noisy Nick is supposed to take a deep breath in and get bigger. But do you remember earlier how I said he can be quite naughty for his mom and say no? Well, when he was told to take a deep breath in to change into his capital letter, just like some of our other Letterlanders, he said, no, I won't. So instead of taking a deep breath in and growing big, Noisy Nick does a special trick. He uses 3 big nails to make his big capital letter. Let's take a close look at it now. So this is Noisy Nick's capital N, his capital letter. And here is his magic trick where he has used 3 really big nails. Now when we want to write his capital letter, we need to start at the top, just like we did with his lowercase letter. So we're going to start at the top. We need to bang down the nail, go back up the same line. Now we need to go down the slanted nail and back up to the top. Right, so where do we start? We start at the top and we bang down his nail, go back up the same line, go down the slanted nail and back up to the top. Writing this letter without lifting our pencil means that none of his nails will fall over. Next, we're going to watch 2 videos that will help us learn and practice the formation of Noisy Nick's uppercase and lowercase letters.
Now bang my nail, Noisy Nick said. Go up and over, around my head. Now bang my nail, Noisy Nick said. Go up and over, around my head.
Nice job, boys and girls. Now, do you remember in previous lessons I taught you about some Letterlanders that have friends that share the same sound with them, like Golden Girl and Golden Granny, who shared the same sound in a word, or Munching Mike and Munching Maria. Now, Noisy Nick also has a best friend, and her name is Noisy Nicola. Noisy Nicola. She is not only his best friend, she is also his next door neighbor. Now, when Noisy Nick and Noisy Nicola aren't making a noise by banging nails into wood, I know that what else they like to do is gather their nets, and go around the neighborhood picking different nuts from the trees. But when they are doing this, they are doing their best not to make a noise for a change, because they do not want to disturb any birds in nests. So when we see two letter N in a word, one is Noisy Nick and the other is his best friend and next door neighbor, Noisy Nicola. Next, we are going to have a look at some posters that have pictures on that begin with the N sound, and we are going to say the words together. Right, so now we're going to take a look at our first poster that has pictures on beginning with the N sound. Our first picture we're going to look at over here is nails. 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 Can you see the pretty pink nails? Nails. Nails. Underneath the nails we have a beautiful necklace. 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 We have a very tired little boy taking a nap. 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 We have a net. Net. Noisy Nick and Noisy Nicola like to collect nuts. Nuts in their net. We have a nose. Nose. A notebook. Notebook. And right at the bottom, a nut. Just like we would find in Dad's toolbox with the bolts. Nuts and bolts. On our second poster, we have right in the top corner here a nurse. Nurse. We have some needles. Needles that your mom or your gran might use when sewing something. We have a nest. Nest. We have Noisy Nick's nails. Nails. We have a picture of night time. Night. And last we have a bird called a nightingale. Nightingale. All of these pictures starting with the sound Noisy Nick makes. Next, we're going to read a story about Noisy Nick. Alright, let's take a look at what today's story is called. Noisy Nick in the Night. Let's see what it's all about. In Letterland, there is a boy called Noisy Nick. Nick is 9 years old. He is called Noisy Nick because he loves making a noise. He likes hammering nails and banging on his drum. His next door neighbors are not so keen on all the noise he makes. Nick says in words like 9, nose, and noodles. 9, nose, and noodles. Noisy Nick had noodles for his dinner tonight. Do you like noodles? Nick loves them. His mum told him to stop slurping slurping them so noisily. But Nick said, "Mum, if you just nibble them, they're not nearly as nice." And he continued to sip, slurp, and suck up his noodles noisily. "Oh, noisy Nick," said his mum. After dinner, Nick played a numbers game. Then he had a bath and he brushed his teeth. He ran into his bedroom and made a snuggly nest with his blanket. Now he was all cozy and ready for his nighttime story. Nick waited for his dad to come in to read to him. "Come on, Dad," he shouted noisily. Nick's dad called back, "I won't be long. I've just got to go feed the dog." "Come here, Nip Nip," said his dad. Nick snuggled down in his nest. For the first time that day, Nick was not making any noise. He just listened. Nick could hear lots of noises now. He could hear the news on the TV. He could hear his mum washing up pans noisily in the kitchen. Next, he counted the sound of 9 cars driving past on a road nearby. When he listened really carefully, he could even hear the noises of nature outside. An owl hooted, leaves rustled, and twigs snapped. Noisy Nick imagined the nighttime animals coming out to play. Bats and badgers. He imagined mice having nighttime snacks on nuts. He imagined one of the mice counting the nuts and writing a number on each one. Look right over here. This is the mice he imagined, writing a number on each nut. Next, Nick was dreaming he could see inside the mouse nest. There were some newborn mice nestled in a nursery. The mummy mouse was making scarves to keep her babies' necks and noses nice and warm. Her neat little sewing kit was filled with wool, felt, tiny needles, and lots of pins. Look closely because it's a really small picture. "Okay, Nick, now I'm ready," said his dad, carrying in a bedtime story. But Nick was already fast asleep and dreaming. Nick looked so nice, neatly tucked up in his blanket nest. "Nick is normally so noisy," said his dad to himself. "But tonight it's so quiet in here, you could hear the drop of a pin." Pin. Right, now that we have reached the end of our lesson, I always like to give you some things you can do that begin with the sound we have been learning about. So today, because we have been learning about noisy Nick's N sound, I have a few things I thought you could do that would be rather fun. The first one I thought you could do is to practice drawing your news. So for that, you could draw us a picture of something you have done this week. The second idea would be to make a necklace. If you have beads at home, you're welcome to use the beads to make them, but if you don't, putting macaroni onto a strand of wool works just as well. You can even dye your macaroni in food coloring and have a rainbow necklace. The third thing you can do is you could make a note. You could make a note for a friend for when you get back to school. I know in my class, Arilyn loved making notes every day and would always spoil her friends with notes. So you can start now and make some beautiful notes for your friends for when we return to school. Or you could make a note for your mom or dad or brother or sister. The fourth and final thing you can do, beginning with N, is something nice for somebody. Maybe you could give your mom and dad a neck rub or a foot rub. I'm sure that they would really enjoy that. Now, over the course of lockdown, I have received a few pictures of girls in my class that have made a beautiful card or a craft or have been enjoying watching our Letterland lessons. But I would like to encourage all the moms and dads to at least take one picture of your children doing a task we have set out for them or practicing their handwriting formation, just for their teachers to see, as I'm sure they would really appreciate it during these times. Now, before we end the video, I do have a few important announcements. The first one being that Auntie Christine, our Yellow Group teacher, has made some beautiful handwriting practice worksheets, and we will be uploading those onto the D6 on Friday, and really urge all of the Yellow Group and Grade R parents to print it out if possible and make use of these handwriting practice worksheets. The second announcement is that I am aware that a silent magic E lesson and vowel lesson were supposed to follow MP Inc.'s lesson. However, I do feel that we need to give more attention to the other vowels we haven't touched on yet in our lessons, and that are O, U and E. So we will still do 3 more lessons on that, and then it will be followed by the vowel lesson with the silent magic E. And the last announcement is just that our YouTube channel has been set to public, so we ask you kindly to subscribe to it, and then you can watch past videos on our channel, and as new videos are made and uploaded, Auntie Odette will be putting the link on the D6. I hope you have a lovely day. Bye.